Welcome to the State of Crypto Policy
Welcome to
Summit.
Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq, coming to you live from Consensus in Austin, Texas. Joining us for this segment, we have Scott Sigel, COO of the Helium Foundation. We're here to discuss the future of community-built infrastructure. Scott, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thanks for having me.
All right, tell us about the recent integration with Solana. What's going on there?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, what I would say, we're here at Consensus. Everybody's here excited about open permissionless networks. And underpinning all of this is connectivity. The idea of how do we make sure that we are all connected to the internet, how do we make sure as people, as devices, we can all be online and connect as a society globally. And that's really what Helium is kind of working to solve for, is the idea of that ubiquitous wireless around the world. So we originally, to your question around Solana, we originally launched our own layer 1 blockchain, and ultimately building wireless networks is hard, building blockchains also is pretty hard. So for us it made a lot of sense to move over to a highly scalable, high throughput, strong developer community in Solana, and that's really allowed us to scale a lot more successfully.
What about the momentum of DeepIn projects on the Helium network? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's the idea behind DeepIn? Decentralized physical infrastructure networks. And it's how do you coordinate work in the physical world? So you think about Bitcoin, Ethereum, these are a lot of things that aren't necessarily geographically specific. Wireless as an industry has historically been a top-down model. So when you think about that connectivity of deploying cell towers and radios, that's always come from the large enterprise. Thinking about connectivity, you really have to have some sort of model that can help meet that, where it is in the world right now, and have a community-built network that people can be incentivized and participate. So that's what crypto enables. I think that's the strong narrative behind DeepIn, is that people can build these physical networks of value. They're true public utilities that anybody can participate in, be rewarded for, and have that kind of ownership and autonomy.
So what does the future of community-built infrastructure look like?
So if you think about, these could be, we're talking about rural communities, supply chain. How do you make sure that these places are connected such that you're not waiting for a tower to get built? Helium enables that to be possible. The idea that somebody can go put up a, so it looks like a wireless access point. You can put this on top of a house, on top of a building. You can put it wherever your business has needs for that. And you're now providing coverage for your business in your neighborhood that anybody can use. It is open. And we're seeing this also in compute and in storage networks. The idea that you have this user-owned infrastructure really creates a lot of agency for the individuals. But you're creating larger economies, more can participate, and you're complementing these existing incumbents. And I think that's going to be necessary to scale wireless, to scale compute power, and I think that these things are really going to help solve these kind of larger existing industrial problems. I think that's a really important part, is the idea that these are things, crypto's confronting problems that do need a solution.
Right. See, and that's so interesting when you think about technology. You don't necessarily want to develop something for the sake of. You want to have a problem that needs a solution. Exactly. And I also feel like as the industry continues to mature, with interoperability improving, that is, I think that's just as important as regulation and a framework, and having more products introduced. It doesn't happen unless everyone can talk to each other on these different chains.
Yeah. So, for us, obviously the way that we think about that kind of architecture, we can, right now Helium is running on top of Solana. There's a lot of things that we could decentralize as far as different parts of our architecture that run on different chains, but interoperability for us is actually, that conversation is around, it's wireless, it's roaming. So you think about the fact of, you usually don't see, if you're a Verizon customer, an AT&T customer, you're usually hopping across different networks. Right. And one of the things that Helium is kind of solving is the idea of, right now we live in a world of carrier-built networks. Right. So how do you make sure you have that connectivity between the places that are undercovered? And that comes from community-built networks. So this isn't necessarily just underserved areas, but you could be in the middle of New York City and you're dropping calls on 3rd Avenue, but if that cafe or some commercial real estate owner has put up that existing coverage, as a user, you don't see that.
Well, as a user, you don't care. You just want it to work.
And that's the beauty.
And I feel like I noticed a lot of consensus this year where we're talking about user experience more than anything else. We get it, you guys get the core, the architecture, the developers, engineers get all that stuff. I just want it to work. And I feel like that's the conversations we've been having.
And that's, I think, where DeepIn really shines, and one of the ways that Helium is leading in the industry is, so people talk about crypto mining, that's complicated. And if you really want people to start to participate in these open permissionless economies, it has to be simple for people that are not as technically savvy. So you want to mine for Bitcoin and Ethereum, that was a little bit complicated for the average person. For somebody to go and create Helium coverage, we really consumerize that process. The idea of you buy a piece of hardware that is consumer friendly, you open an app, and all of a sudden you're providing coverage for your neighbors, and that's how we built up our supply side. On the demand side, now with Helium Mobile, as the first crypto native carrier, nearly 100,000 signups for this. And this is not just for people who are crypto natives, it's people who just don't have good coverage in their area and are able to put up and provide their own coverage and also help to participate in building that network because it's just a phone carrier. It's simple, it works, it's easy, and you don't have to understand the technology to benefit from the economic benefit.
Is this competitive to, let's call it Verizon or AT&T? Is it integrated together or something that will overtake that kind of technology?
So this is the beauty of it, is not only is it you're creating better, healthy competition with new challengers in the wireless space, but it's symbiotic. So think about the fact of, AT&T, Verizon, like the CapEx that just grows by the billions. Every single year for them to own the real estate, deploy a tower, there are places that are underserved and undercovered because it just doesn't make sense for their ROI.
Right.
So if they can roam into a community-built network, it's better for their customers. They're able to serve the countries better. And for Helium, it's the idea of, again, you have kind of two-way roaming. So Helium Mobile actually also leverages the T-Mobile network. So you're either in Helium coverage or you could be roaming into T-Mobile. And again, in the future, there's this great combination of carrier-built networks and community-built networks working together to get to that state of ubiquitous wireless.
Interesting, Scott. Appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me from Consensus. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.